Weather at the moment is completely bonkers. 1 minute it's like this, hailing. Then the next thing you know, the weather's like this. Nice, mild, sunny, clear skies. Insane. I was reading an article online from the University of Gothenburg, some research they did into how one of the paths to happiness, one of the things that gives you a really good reward is not just working towards a goal, but just the hard work that goes into something actually gives you a really big high. I'll link to a TED talk here by a guy called Tim Urban who addresses this problem of when you work too hard but you don't have any of these kind of final goals in place. But this research was saying how it isn't necessarily the goal itself, it's the hard work that goes into it that gives us this really big high, the dopamine rush. It also goes on to say that staying active is really important, and that hanging out with people and being social is another reason why people are happy. I don't think any of these things are new, if I'm honest. I posted a video months ago now, back in the summer last year when I was injured, about the four neurotransmitters and hormones that make us happy. Again, I'll put another link here. I'm sat on the wrong side of the video here for this. I'll put the link here. So I don't think any of this information comes as a surprise, but when you think about it in the context of triathlon, it is quite a good thing to bear in mind that obviously we are working towards goals. We are trying to finish these races in certain times or hit certain targets. And it's quite interesting to know that actually the hard work that we put into achieving those goals is actually part of the process. To enjoy that part of it is part of the happiness that we get from being triathletes. I remember my dad years ago saying that when credit cards became popular in the 1950s, it was an issue for people. This idea of being able to get something that you hadn't worked for would be a problem. And to some extent, obviously, we're living in the extreme of instant gratification these days with things like Spotify and Netflix and having access to pretty much anything and everything that we would otherwise have had to spend ages waiting for. This isn't a comparison between how it was when I was a kid growing up and whether things are good or bad, but obviously when I was growing up, the same as most people that are watching this video, that you would have had to have waited ages for an album to come out. You'd have read about it in Kerrang or something like that. In NME, Kerrang still going? I know NME's gone. Melody Maker. Once you heard that album was coming out, it might be 6 months until it comes out, and then you'd have to order it from Sergeant's Records in Nailsy or something and have to save up your money to be able to afford it. And it made music have some value, and in this day and age, even I find it that with things like Spotify, it makes it so much more disposable. And I do genuinely think that's an issue. I think this idea of steering people towards working hard towards something that is a long-term goal is genuinely a path to happiness. That dopamine rush that you've had to wait ages to get hold of, it's such a bigger high. I'm thinking about the London Marathon runners that ran earlier today, and how much more of an amazing experience that is for them, because some of them have been working towards it for months and months, you know, a year in some cases. That payoff is always all the more richer because of that effort that you've put into doing something. But that hard work does have to be tempered to some extent. I know, I don't know if any of you have heard of a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He's kind of this idea of hustle and how hard work is absolutely the king of everything. And he's right. If you want to be successful, you've got to work hard. But there is obviously a balance that needs to be kind of struck between enjoying yourself and kind of developing that long-term goal. So naturally, as triathletes, not only do we have this kind of goal-driven mentality, but we also have this hard work ethic that goes into that, and that does explain to some extent why it brings such a good feeling. You couple that alongside this idea of being active, which obviously as a triathlete you kind of have to be active, and then you compare that to kind of modern day life, where even now you're getting these e-game things where not only are we sitting down and playing computer games, but actually people are sitting down and watching people play computer games. I can't get my head around it. My two kids kind of they kind of understand that kind of entertainment. It's not for me. Obviously you've got people that are working in offices, sitting behind desks. Obviously we can travel really easily now without having to put too much effort into that kind of thing. Being able to sit down and watch YouTube videos like this is a pretty inactive thing to do. Is that saying of Netflix and chill? You've actually got to earn that chill. It's a good idea to be active first and then sit down and watch something on Netflix. By the way, I'm watching a series called You on Netflix. That's brilliant. You should check that out. But staying active obviously is part of the triathlete's kind of thing. It's pretty hard to be an inactive triathlete, although to be fair, over a couple of periods in this last 12 months I've managed to achieve that too. The last thing this University of Gothenburg research looked into was this idea of happiness coming from socializing. Now that's something that over this last year I've been really aware of, that when I haven't been able to train, I've really missed my friends at Cleveland Athletics and my swimming partners who I'm really good friends with, and I have missed that. The holy trinity of what they were saying at the University of Gothenburg about being active, about having goals but working hard towards them, and I think that's an interesting addition, but also socializing. Those three aspects come into my triathlon life on a weekly basis, which is good to know. So how's this week gone for me? Well, again, it's been another good week of building. I've managed to get 4 swims in, not so much distance actually this week, but I have done some really tough sessions. Swimming's still progressing in a really nice way. I have definitely felt that creeping into my approach to running. I did my 9 400s this week and I'm moving on to 11 400s this week. My long run actually had to be cut short because I had to save 2 lambs that had escaped from a field, but also I've been having a few little twinges in my legs this last couple of days. To some extent my knee feels like it's gone backwards. Well, not backwards like backwards like an emu. No, is it an ostrich? Hang on. Emus and ostriches' knees go backwards, and they can run. An emu can run at 50 kilometers an hour, and an ostrich can sprint at 70 kilometers an hour. That's insane. 70 kilometers an hour. Okay, so if my knee was really going backwards and the other one was going backwards, I'd be quite happy with that. But what I mean is my knee felt like it had regressed a little bit this week, that I had a little bit more pain in my knee than I was getting over the last couple of weeks. I felt like I'd made a huge amount of progress with my knee, and then this week it felt like it was just going backwards a little bit. Now, looking into that, I think it's pretty obvious why for me. I've only managed to get about an hour in on the turbo this week. I think I did 1 hour and 10 yesterday, and that was definitely helping my knee. And also I haven't been doing my strength and conditioning stuff, so that's my fault. I'm going to bring that in more next week. I'm going to make sure I get on the turbo at least 3 times. I'm going to try and do at least 3 hours on the turbo and make sure that I do all of my strength and conditioning exercises. Hopefully my knee will get better. Bex was really kind in helping me get a little bit more recovery into my legs after this slightly aborted run. I mean, it wasn't too much. I was supposed to do 50 minutes. I ran for 44, so it wasn't too bad. And it was only a small twinge in my Achilles that made me think, actually, I'm going to knock this on the head today. And Bex has worked my legs over on the massage bench this afternoon. Speaking of turbo, I realised that I needed to give myself a bit of a kick up the backside with the turbo, so I've made the shift to Zwift. That should be a marketing saying, the shift to Zwift. I've been using Trainer Road for, well, pretty much since they started up, and I do love Trainer Road. It's brilliant. I don't have any problem with Trainer Road as the way it works, but I thought I'd shift to Zwift to see what all the fuss was about, and I'm really impressed with it, I have to say. There are pros and cons to both platforms. I've only used it once, but one of the things that I really do like about Zwift is the fact that it feels more of a natural riding situation, where you've got these kind of slow gradients, these peaks and troughs, where you have to manage your cadence and manage your gears. Now, that is one of the problems with using Trainer Road in the erg setting. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically the erg setting means that it will shift the resistance of your turbo according to how your cadence and gearing is, so you don't have to think too much. And of course, when you're racing, you have to adjust your cadence and you have to adjust your gearing. It's something that my friend Chris Newman, who I did the wind tunnel thing, I'll put a link here, Chris Newman's a great time trialist, and he did say to me a couple of months ago, when you're riding on trainer road, do you have it in erg mode or not? And I have to admit, I was cheating a little bit by letting the turbo do all of the work. With Zwift, you don't really have to do that. You actually have to ride really properly as if you're on the road, which is something I really enjoy about it. One thing I don't think is so good about Zwift is the actual training programs that they have on there. They look pretty limited. I'm going to give one of them a go over the next couple of weeks. The idea of this is purely just to kind of make it a bit more fun and a bit more interesting for me to get on the turbo as the swimming has happened and the kind of progression with the running a little bit. I've got about a month, just over a month before I do Swansea. I'm feeling pretty confident I'll finish it. I'm looking forward to actually finishing a triathlon. I didn't last year because of my plantar fasciitis, so I haven't done a triathlon and finished it, got across the finishing line for over a year now, despite the fact that I think this is my 21st year doing triathlons. Last year, yeah, didn't finish one, so that's something I'm looking forward to. Otherwise, everything's going really well. Enjoyed watching the London Marathon. Going to try and catch the end of Liège-Bastogne-Liège. If any of you watched Amstel Gold last week, that race was insane. I've never seen a finish like that. I've been watching cycling since 1985, 1986. I really got into it. I've never seen a finish like that. Completely bonkers. Anyway, I'm just waffling now, so I'm going to knock it on the head. That's the end of this week. I'm just going to shut up now. Hit the subscribe button that I'm going to put here. There's some more videos for you to have a look at here. Hit the notifications if you like this video, because it means that when I make the next one and it comes up, you'll be sent a message so you know that it's live. Anyway, have a good week, and I'll see you next Sunday.